Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me. And today we're going to talk about the card Virtue of Courage from Wilds of Eldraine. For 3 colors and 2 red, it's an enchantment that says whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, you may exile that many cards from the top of your library. You may play those cards this turn. But it's also an adventure card, and the adventure part is Embereth Blaze. For 1 colorless and 1 red, it's an instant adventure that says Embereth Blaze deals 2 damage to any target. And then of course this gets exiled and we can play it for the front side, for the Virtue of Courage side. So this card is really strong, as most people are realizing on the internet, but I think it's actually even stronger than a lot of people are giving it credit for. This can be an absolute game ender in all sorts of commander decks, and the thing about it is you're not really giving up that much opportunity cost to play it. Usually this kind of clunky card that is half of an engine doesn't really do much if you don't draw the other half, but in this case, because you have the adventure front side on it, it actually becomes quite reasonable. Drawing this early isn't a dead card. It allows you to deal with an early game threat by dealing 2 damage to it, which is only slightly overcosted and pretty good at instant speed. It can even go to the opponent's faces in the rare case where you have a commander which cares about non-combat damage going to the face, but that's not even that rare honestly, because this fits very well in those sorts of decks, in decks that want to be dealing direct damage, kind of burn decks. There's quite a few of those decks in Commander these days. A classic example of course is Perforos, God of the Forge. This card is absolutely insane with Perforos because any creature you have entering the battlefield is going to deal 6 damage, 2 to each opponent, and that means that you're going to exile the top 6 cards of your library for every creature that enters the battlefield. You're probably going to find another creature in those top 6 cards, which then means you get to do the whole thing again and again and again, and as long as you have enough mana to pay for those creatures, you can really go off with these 2 cards. That seems like a very strong combination. Another deck in which this is obviously going to be great is in Gerson Starn Kellamorph. Obviously in that deck you're pinging a lot, you're dealing a lot of damage to the opponent's faces. That means you're going to be exiling so many cards with this, which again gives you a lot of gas, and since that deck is very low to the ground and the average mana cost is pretty low, you're going to be able to actually go off a lot again with this card. Neheb the Eternal is also going to really love this card. It's a deck that really cares about dealing damage directly to the opponent, so that synergizes very well with what this wants to be doing, and then you're even going to get extra mana later on in the turn, which is going to allow you to play all those cards that you've exiled, so it's a perfect fit for that kind of strategy. But I'd like to go even further. I think that there's a lot more decks even that could want this. It's going to be good in Norin the Wary, which is going to be dealing direct damage a lot. It's going to work in a lot of decks that have Spellslinger sub-themes, because those decks often have pinger effects that deal direct damage to your opponents whenever you play an instant or sorcery. The same also applies for red decks that are going to be pinging people when artifacts come into play or die. There's also a lot of decks running those kind of effects. So really there's a lot more decks that you think that might want this, and a lot more effects that are going to trigger this that you might initially realize. Something like Burning Earth and Mana Bobs are 2 of my favorite things to play with this, because they're just going to punish people for tapping lands, although you might have to be careful in those cases that you don't mill yourself before killing your opponents, seeing as you're probably going to be exiling so many cards and they kind of have a little bit of control over what you exile. In any case, I think this card is super spicy, super exciting, very, very powerful, and the fact that it has that front side makes it so flexible that there's very little opportunity cost to putting it in your deck. Obviously only put it in decks that really want to play it, but once it's in there, it's never going to be a dead draw, and I think that's great. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think about this card? Please let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel, and until next time, take care. Woo!